Hello, beautiful people of the internet. My name is Evie, and I'm very excited today because I'm going to be interviewing Foxtails. If you'll remember, I reviewed their album, Fawn, their most recent album, which came out like a week and a half ago, right? At this point, and gave it a 9 out of 10. Really loved it. And now I have the pleasure of sitting down and talking to John and Megan of Foxtails. How are you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
I'm quite good. Yeah.
Yes.
Good to hear. So first of all, congratulations on that 8 out of 10 from Fantano. That's huge.
Thank you.
It's the big 8. So I'm curious, how have things changed since that review came out for you guys?
It's kind of been blowing up. Like our notifications are going crazy. Our listeners have gone up a lot. There's been a lot of messages from people. Those are definitely the most meaningful things is the messages from people being
Oh,
like,
jeez, sorry. I had set a timer for 3:55, so I would like know when to contact you guys, but you did it first, so I apologize for that.
No problem. Yeah, it's pretty much been like the messages from people who are like, I've never listened to screamo before, but this is like either my first listen or the first time in a long time that I've liked a screamo record.
Yeah.
So that's super meaningful, and also just having people reach out and being like, it really resonated with me. Like this is one of the best albums of the year already. Like we've been getting that a lot. We've been getting a lot of stuff on like Rate Your Music, and like it's just been a lot of talk, and it's all positive, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets into the scene in their own way, right? And I can imagine it would be an awesome feeling to know that you got someone into screamo and hardcore through something you created. And yeah, about people saying it's like the first screamo album they've enjoyed in a while. Like, if you'll remember, I compared it to, not necessarily in sound, but in innovation to the likes of Envy and Circle Takes the Square, those really innovative bands from the 2000s. And, there are people pushing boundaries in screamo nowadays, but you don't really get, like, chamber screamo. Like, that's new. That's crazy. That's awesome. And I'm curious, has Anthony reached out for like an interview yet?
No, not yet. I don't even know if he will. But he and I exchanged some messages, and he's very, very sweet. I don't know. I feel like he's probably just gonna be keeping an eye on us, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. And yeah, like we also don't plan to stop. Like we're already starting to write new material. So
Awesome.
Well, there's gonna be more to go off of too.
Nice. Yeah. No. I that was actually the last question I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask, what's your plan going forward? You answered it for me, so off to a good start. No, but I'm so glad that you've had that interaction with Fantano. He's a big inspiration to what I do, so I was really glad when he gave you guys an 8. But it was the first time where I felt like I was in competition with him, because like I was the only one who had reviewed it, and then he did it. So I was like,
you did it first. You get the credit.
thank you. I made a comment on my own video, like I was the first to review this. Here, let me open up my questions here. Here, hold on. So I have like a good range of questions, from like more general questions about the band to like more specific ones about the album, and I kind of want to just start with the album because it's so good and I just have a lot of questions about it. So, when I listen to this thing, I hear a lot going into it, from the influences, the genres, the passion, the vocals, the lyrics. And so I'm just curious, what was the spark or the sparks that started the flame that was Fawn?
Yeah. So like almost always with Foxtails, like it starts from me. Like I like make guitar riffs and everyone adds to it, and my like what spawned Fawn conceptually on my end was basically Foxtails up until like a year ago was a direct response to a very bad time period of my life, like, you know, in high school, where I was being abused and also just belittled as a musician for doing things that I was interested in, which was often, you know, more math type stuff, and just like more emotive genres. And like Foxtails like started because like my approach was basically to prove everyone wrong.
Nice.
And like, but with Fawn, the thing that changed was at that point I realized to myself that I had gone so much further than the person who made me feel this way in music. So I was finally just like, so now I can do it like this without the restraint of having to prove someone wrong. And and we were saying to each other at the beginning of writing that this album is is being sick of it, like just being sick of the shit, and that's the main concept of like the beginning, the core of the album.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry you went through that. That's awful, but you know, I can definitely hear that progression. It does sound like a very sick of it kind of record. I hear that definitely with the emotions. So I'm curious about the decision to add a violin element. Where did that come from?
Also them.
Yeah, I've always perceived Foxtails as a 4-piece band, like that it would be eventually.
Yeah.
We just had, and I always loved the idea of violin. But there was never an opportunity for that to happen. And then the last show that Megan and I went to before COVID happened was a show in the city we were in, where we saw Jared's other band that's still together, the Post Valley Green. We saw them play, and I was just blown away by the band and also Jared specifically.
Yeah.
So we started talking, and I was like, "This is a match made in heaven," and it seemed, everything just seemed right. It wasn't like a long plan of like, we're gonna specifically get a violin, but I always liked the idea of having a violin.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Are there any specific lyrical or musical influences, like artists or bands or genres that you can think of that you were listening to a lot during this period that may have influenced Fawn?
For me, I was listening to a lot of hip hop and also a lot of electronica.
Cool.
So it was either like extremely lyrical or like no voice at all. So that was an interesting mix of music, I guess. It definitely helped me in sort of getting my lyricism together, sort of like understanding the English language a bit more thoroughly, and also being able to apply the concept of like speaking like a spoken word but rhythmic in that sense. Right. Was very much applied to this record. It was something that I experimented with beforehand, but I was never really confident enough to really, do it as much as I did on Fawn. So that's where I was coming from mostly. But in terms of like musical, like instrumental,
yeah, I mean also like hip hop and electronic.
Yeah,
because we were living together.
Together, so
we like would listen to the same music like basically all day. And I guess for my guitar playing, the reason why like my guitar playing on Fawn is less like melodic and more rhythmic in nature is because I had been listening to electronic music and hip hop. So I very much approached like my guitar parts from a more like sample perspective and let other things happen to change it around, which is very different than what we did before. There is still like a lot of melodic elements, but I'm approaching it even in a melodic sense more rhythmically, and more so like the bass line of like the whole thing.
For sure. I mean, if there is one thing that like electronica and hip hop have in common, it's that they're both very rhythmic based. So, and that definitely comes through. And now that I think about it, although, there's a lot of melodic moments on Fawn, I definitely hear, like 3 was very melodic with the guitars, like that Midwest emo type stuff. And that's cool, but like, you're evolving. It's a different sound. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So I also wanted to ask, what is like your typical songwriting process when you go into records? Like, how do you usually write songs?
John has riffs.
I have riffs. Megan approves of said riffs, or disapproves of said riffs.
Yeah.
And then we go to practice, and I spend if we're in the mood to like write a song, I spend the entire time just like staring at Michael, our drummer, and we're just like, okay, this, that, blah blah, and like we are never not having eye contact when we're writing music. And then we make like the groundwork, and then like in the past, Megan would add bass and vocals, but now Megan's adding bass and vocals, and Jared's adding violin. So like basically like it starts with just me, and then it's Michael and I, and then Megan and Jared complete the picture.
Yeah, Michael tends to like structure the riffs very well, but also he adds like a groove feel to it. So sometimes I'll have an idea of a bass line I want to do, but sometimes it might get changed up completely based on what Michael's doing.
Yeah.
Just because if he's doing something specific, I might be like, ooh, like I want to like contrast that or like groove along with that. So yeah, then like pretty much at any point, anything is subject to change too. That's like the only other thing that I would add.
So you mostly just bounce ideas off of each other, it seems like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that you're just staring at Michael, because during the audio tree performance, he's just staring at the camera the whole time.
Yeah, and what's really funny about it is like he's obviously like, it's like he's staring in the direction of me, and then the camera goes to me. That's what's really funny for me.
Oh, so that wasn't on purpose.
No, that was on purpose.
Oh, okay.
On his end.
On his end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was happening.
No, because I thought that was very much intentional. I thought he was being goofy. I didn't know.
Oh yes, he was.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, I got you. So, going off of that question, so this record is, as I've said, it's like a big step in a new direction for you guys. And so I'm wondering if your songwriting process like changed in any significant way on this album than it was on previous records.
Yeah, like another thing, like I guess like in the past because it's always been like riffs first, and like I guess now, the main difference with me is that like I deliberately was writing to the strengths of everyone else. I wanted to make riffs that would make everyone else shine, and like in the end product, like I've seen comments about this, and like they're not even like negative, but like people are like, the guitar is like the least interesting thing, but that's because like I deliberately wanted to make everything else the more interesting thing. Whereas in the past, like it was much more guitar centric, and it's not, and I like that because I feel like it had elements that could not exist with guitar centric music.
Yeah, it was kind of more like, and not in a bad way. It was like kind of more noodly before. Not in a bad way at all.
Yeah.
No, I love noodly stuff. I love The Fall of Troy, don't get me wrong. No, but I definitely hear that now. I wouldn't say the guitar is the least interesting. I think there's a lot of really great guitar passages on there, but I definitely hear what you mean where you're kind of writing so that everyone else can, like, there's like an equal distribution of things going on with each element, if that makes sense. I definitely
that makes perfect sense. That was the plan.
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
cool.
Like, I thought about that. Yeah.
Also, just to give a little bit of credit, so John wrote the first riff to Space Orphan, which is like the very beginning part. But Space Orphan was actually like mostly arranged by me.
Cool.
Which was super fun. That's why that song is very like, I think, bass and violin centric.
It starts with the do, yeah.
Yeah.
I made that part separately, and then Megan was like...
Yeah, John wrote that first part, and then I was like, all right, so this is where we're going from here.
Yeah.
and it was like my first time doing that too. Also, like for example, like gallons of spiders.
I love that one so
was actually, thank you. That one was actually it started as a jam. So like I just sort of like played those two chords, and people, like everybody else was just like building off of it. And that's kind of how it ended up being. Like we didn't really change the structure of anything that we did. It was basically improvised. Yeah, we just pretty much improvised it, and then we like tightened it up to record. And I that was really cool. And I feel like there have been a lot of like there have been like some other songs too in the past where like it is a bit more like bass focused. But I feel like especially in this record, it was really cool to sort of come from a perspective of like bass being the main writing instrument and having everyone else build off of that. It's just a cool, interesting idea.
I definitely do hear how the bass is kind of at the center for a lot of tracks. Like my favorite track, Star-Crossed, it was like the intro was the bass, and I set like
the Santana.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I was gonna bring that up. I didn't know if you guys looked in the description of his video, but that was, I don't know what's up with that. That was my favorite, bro. That was my favorite.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like it's really interesting though, because everybody has like a different like opinion. Like most people like the record, which is crazy and like awesome. But one thing I've noticed is that like each person's like little like gripes with it, they're all different. So like for most people, like they love Star-Crossed. Like I've seen like a lot of positive stuff.
Even in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's a lot of people who don't like gallons, but there's also a lot of people who don't like. Yeah, so there's one person, not even one. I think there's a couple people who don't like Ataque de Nervios. It's very.
A lot of people's favorite song is Paper Tiger, but a lot of people really don't like it.
It's so
like, look at the Iron Tree video. Like the comments there are like much more like tearing us down than in any other video.
It's super interesting. It's super interesting, and if anything, it's like I don't even think of it as a bad thing. I think it's cool because then people are just like, "What do you think? What do you think?" Like it's very cool to have everybody discuss it.
Yeah. I didn't have any real gripes. I think. What was the name of the interlude song you had on there?
So It Goes.
So It Goes. I liked that one. I didn't know. I thought maybe like I didn't know if I needed like an interlude in that moment. That's like the only real gripe I had with it, and I mentioned that in the review. But like, I'm not here to criticize. Okay, it's a good fucking record. I like every song on it, really. I just had nothing but positive things to say about it, and especially with Space Orphan. Now I can't lie, I haven't been following you guys for ages. I did just kind of recently get into you guys, but okay. I'm just imagining for like long-term fans who are used to that more like autumn kind of sweet sound on like 3, going into like Space Orphan, which was released as a single, and just hearing like that fucking like no wave breakdown at the end with like the violins, like just crazy shit. I'm just imagining how weird that must have been. But no, it's a great track. I love that one so much. Another one of my favorites would have to be what's it called? The second to last one with like the I ask, that one.
La Belle Indifference.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot the name, but I love that one. I love all the different phases and the jazzy stuff going on. But anyway, before I go on a tangent, I also want to ask Megan. So we heard like the more instrumental side of songwriting. I'm curious about the lyrical side. How do you usually like write lyrics? I guess that's just the best way to say it.
Lyric writing is definitely a long and arduous process for me. It really entails, like, I have an idea of what the mood of the song provokes, like what emotions are provoked in me through just the instrumentals. I always have usually an idea of melody or like rhythm of a scream that I want to do, or rhythm of a spoken passage that I want to do, and it's basically just being able to fit in the words that also match the emotion that I'm trying to communicate. Usually what happens is that I'll sort of get like some basic ideas, and I will have a couple lines written down, and then I'll revisit it like a few days later, a few weeks later, a few months later, and like I'll go back and see, do I still like these lines? Could I say these things better? Are there words that I can replace? And then there's also like sometimes I'll just write like poetry, and so I'm just like, okay, I think actually these lines work very well in song, or this way of saying it is much more effective than this way of saying it. So it's a lot of like revising, and like just sort of like keeping myself centered on what is it that I'm trying to convey, and what is the most in-depth way that I can describe it. I think that the way that I approach lyricism is, in a way, it's very personal.
Yeah.
And it's very honest.
Yesterday we were talking about like how it's like novelesque. Like
Novelesque.
it's like the way your editing process is like, it's like very much like writing a novel. Like, and also just like the immense amount of detail.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of attention to detail there. And yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's like basically my goal is to communicate as much as I can communicate, but also have it. I like the fact that my lyric writing is a bit cryptic, because that means it's more open to interpretation. And so people can sort of like hear themselves in the lyric, or they can relate to it in whatever way that they can. Usually people who really like the lyrics, and that is like the majority of people who like Foxtails, a lot of them really love the lyrics. And I think it's because I sort of use it as like a diary and a very honest and confessional type of writing. So that way, like, I think it's easy to relate to the things that I feel, because unfortunately, there's a lot of suffering in the world. So I kind of just find very creative ways to explain all of that.
Yeah. And I definitely hear that poetic aspect for sure, especially on Ego Death. I love the lyrics to that one. And I also noticed there was a lot of like diversity in the types of lyrical passages you were doing. Like, you know, you had the poetic stuff, and then you have like the sort of back and forth, like the singing and screaming on you did that on Paper Tiger, right? And then on La Belle Indifference there was like the like call and response ending. That was awesome. So like I noticed a lot of that. And I think that's definitely something that a lot of musicians could learn from. Like, it's not a one and done. You know, you got to come back to the music you're writing after weeks, months, whatever. You know, is any song really ever truly done, right?
No, that is true.
Let's see. So, this is kind of like an individual question for both you guys. For you, what was like the journey that led you to emo music, like in high school or whenever? Like, what was your journey to get there?
We have like we both have very long answers. But which one wants to go first? I don't know. I
Am I gonna regret asking this question?
No.
I think you should go first.
You think I should go first? So I've always been emo. From a very, very young age, I was emo, probably like, not even joking, like when I was like 10, probably. So I was already listening to a lot of like outsider music.
Okay.
from a young age. Basically because I was like a computer kid and I was an internet kid, so I was babysat by the computer. So I just ended up listening to a lot of music. Just in my spare time, I would just have hours and hours of like YouTube dives, and
Yeah.
I think I discovered Bandcamp around 13. I think I was 13 when I discovered Bandcamp, 13 or 14, I'm not too sure. But yes, and so one of like the first bands that I really, really, really liked because I was an edgy teenager was Mindless Self-Indulgence. So like that basically
Nice.
broke my like limitations on basically anything. Like at that point it's like I like this band, I can listen to anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like I think the first exposure to screamo that I got was William Bonney, because I found it through like a YouTube like deep dive. And from there I just started listening to, like, I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, what is this? I haven't heard of this. This is like not really that popular. It seems at the time it wasn't even really that popular. And so I started researching other screamo, like, and then I started listening to the OGs, and then I started listening to like people on the screamo tag on Bandcamp. But yeah, like ever since I was a kid, I like really just resonated with that music. I thought it was really cool how they would push boundaries, and even if they weren't, the most popular bands, I like really, really like was inspired by the things that they did, like vocally also, because up until that point I was listening to, your typical, like, if it was like not singy songy kind of music, then it was like straight metal.
Yeah.
Or like very obvious kind of technique, or even just distorted singing, that kind of thing. But when I got into screamo and emo, then I started realizing, oh, so you can use your voice in a much different way. And that was really cool to discover and to find out. But yeah, it was just like when I was a kid, I just basically like dove into music like head first, and I just haven't stopped.
I especially imagine if you were a computer kid, you probably found MySpace.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I did find MySpace, and I had a MySpace, and it was awesome. And then they got rid of it, and now I'm sad.
See, I was too late for MySpace. I'm getting into this like retrospectively. Like I'd probably say my favorite emo band is Thursday, and like,
oh fuck yeah,
what the fuck are they doing? Actually, it's unfortunate. I could have seen them last night, but there was COVID, and my parents didn't want me to go. I had tickets I bought months ago. Anyway, now I'm gonna go on another tangent.
Man.
Shit. Anyway, how about you, John? What was your emo journey?
I like what interests me about emo is that I consider music that like would not be classified as emo more emotional, like very frequently. Like I find that music that like is not emo music can be capable of more emotion than like emo music.
I see what you mean.
But then, yeah, but later on, people have been like saying like, I'm really into like classical music, but the thing that interests me about screamo specifically out of the emo subgenres is that melodically speaking, like bands like Jerome's Dream, like that shit, if they were played not on guitar, like I would consider that most definitely classical music. Like the way the songs are written, like also like the lack of structure that like a lot of screamo bands have, definitely like is more aligned with classical music. So I guess like I've always like had that approach like with emo music, looking for stuff that like is not like standard. I love music that refuses to be definable. And I guess the manifestation of us is like emo music, but also like we are as influenced by any other sound than we are humans.
Cool.
In general.
That's interesting you say that about Jerome's Dream. I've never gotten classical out of it, but then again, I don't listen to classical all the time, so maybe if I did, I'd hear that similarity. But that's very interesting that you say that. I mean, you mentioned classical, but like, do you want to elaborate on like just like outside of emo, what you guys listen to that influences you, and your creative process and stuff like that?
Sure. On like classical music, like specifically like 20th century, like Stravinsky, like Schnicke, like Haas, on jazz music, like later down the road, Miles Davis, because like the best Miles Davis is when he just stopped caring about restrictions.
That's jazz,
and it's very inspirational. On I electronic music, another example of just not giving a fuck and just doing whatever the fuck he wants. Aphex Twin.
I was gonna say
very very influenced by Aphex Twin.
As soon as you said electronic music and then not giving a fuck, I was like, he's gonna say Aphex Twin.
Yeah.
I knew it. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all good. And Jerome's Dream too. Again, like I feel like the nature of that music is just so visceral that it's beyond the point of restriction, and they're just like communicating their existence through the music. And we played with Jerome's Dream a couple of years ago, and
really?
Like after talking with them, after talking with them, I was like, of course they're the guys who made those records. Like there's a clear, even though it was 20 years later, there was a clear like these are the people who made that music.
Yeah,
and I have a lot of respect for artists that can put their identities out there like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about do you have anything to add, Megan, about like outside of emo music that influences you?
Yeah, I mean, also when I was younger, I was very much so like an indie kid too.
Yeah.
So I really liked Radiohead, I liked Broadcast, I liked Modest Mouse, I liked Block Party, I liked like a lot of like also very melodic and pretty kind of things too. So I think that gives me a lot of like my singing tendencies. So like, for example, like on our very first record, the funny story about me screaming is that I actually started screaming out of frustration with my singing voice. Because I was like singing and it was not coming out right, so I just like screamed out of frustration, and everybody at the time was like, "Oh yeah, I can actually like keep doing that," and I was like, "Bet," and then I was just like, "So should I do both?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, okay, awesome. So yeah, it was something that was very weird too, because that definitely wasn't something happening in Connecticut at the time.
Yeah.
It was either you were like an indie band or you were World Is type band or any other kind of indie band, or you were like a hardcore band. So I was over here like just messing everything up. But yeah, no, like having those like indie and alternative influences too definitely helped with like the more melodic aspects of my voice. And yeah, that's all I really would add.
Yeah, and that indie definitely that comes through in the vocals, especially. Like when I hear I mean, obviously when I hear the screams, I think of screamo, but like your clean vocals, like definitely like remind me more of like I don't know, like a slowcore band, really. You know, like it's very like gentle, you know.
Hell yeah,
I really like that. And yeah, funny you should mention Connecticut punk. I actually like Connecticut punk is like the entire reason I really got into this scene. Like my first few shows were like in a shed in Connecticut, so when I found out you guys were from Connecticut, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. And it is true. You don't get a lot of what you guys are doing from Connecticut.
Yeah, fun fact, Jerome's dream is from Connecticut.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You're carrying the torch. the CT Scrams torch. Let's see. So more general question about the band. How did you guys meet and form Foxtails? Like, yeah.
We met at a magnet arts high school. So
Michael, you and I.
Well, me, Michael, and John met at in high school. Jared, we met at a show a few years back. Wait, 2 years back? 2 years back.
Yeah.
We met him at a show, and that's when we reached out to him. But the original trio met in high school. And basically John was just like, I'm going to start a band. And then I was just like, there's no way that you're starting a band without me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm totally going to be like a singing person now. And Mike came along for the ride to like play drums, and I just kind of went from there. We just like basically just started having practice weekly and just never stopped for years.
Yeah.
Goddamn, I wish that kind of stuff happened in my school. No one's into this stuff, man. That's cool though. That is like the textbook way to start a band. You know, you meet in school.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think we kind of lucked out, honestly.
Definitely.
Like, we definitely lucked out. It's not often that you start a band in high school and have it, like...
be the ultimate combination, because, like, we work best with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like,
yeah.
that was a struggle.
For sure,
Yeah.
because we also have our own independent projects that we've done over the years, and also with like other members and other bands and other things. But like there's nothing like the chemistry that, you know, us as a trio had, and definitely now us as a quartet have. Like
Jared is also a struggle.
Yeah, Jared was also like sent by God, because
He just fit right in.
Because he just like came out of nowhere and he fit right in. I was not gonna lie, I was very nervous when he first came to practice, because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna be. I don't know if I'm gonna like it, and I definitely don't want to be mean and be like, I don't know if this is good. But thankfully, none of that happened, because he was perfect. So thank the Lord for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of high school bands, but then like most of them suck. So it's cool that you made it and you had that chemistry. That's really important. So.
For sure.
Yeah, good for you. So big question. You mentioned before, I believe it was in the Audio Tree interview part, you mentioned that you're like a very identity-based band. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if you could elaborate on like what identity means to you.
I'm gonna turn on the light because it's getting
go ahead. I probably should do that too, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's weird. No, let's turn that off. All right, you're good. Cool.
I am back.
Like, I watched that, like, because I was the one who said the identity thing, and I cringe at how I said it, so now I have a chance to, like, re-say it.
It's your redemption. Sorry, redemption.
Like, it's true, I just wish I said it better.
Yeah.
So maybe you should start this.
Oh. I mean, I think you said it really well. I think that, like, definitely the idea of, because, like I said before, talking about lyricism, like, this project has always been a bit of a diary for me. It's very journalistic, it's very honest, it's very confessional and cathartic. And in doing that, I am putting a lot of my identity into it. Not just in, you know, how I am trying to convey these very complex emotions that have been present throughout my life, but also in the way that I deal with them, and the way that I philosophize about life, the way that that certain things can be interpreted. Like all of that is a part of me that is going into it. And also like even like musically, I feel like we are
no one sounds like any of us.
Yeah,
like,
each
like
of us.
definitely us speaking to the like recording.
Yeah, for sure. It's like even like musically, instrumentally, it's very much so like for example, like I'm not doing crazy techniques on bass. I was never took classes. I was never, it's same with my voice. I took like one vocal class in high school, but that's it. But the thing is like it was suited for me. And the way that I play bass is me. So even though it's not like technically proficient or anything, it's a piece of me that I'm putting in there, and it's the best way that I can convey what it is that I'm trying to convey. And I feel like there is a lot of justice in that too, like you said.
Yeah.
There's a lot of justice in that because we are people who have been historically like put down or like bullied for being who we are, or doing
just like incapable of being understood. That's definitely like all four of us.
Yeah.
We understand each other, and like the music is like very much conversational.
Yeah.
Between us, because like we understand each other, and this is
exactly,
and that's what's healing about.
For sure. It's definitely very healing because the way that we all are able to come together and create. Otherwise, if any one of us were to be taken out of our role in Foxtails and given the same role in a different group of people, it wouldn't work.
And we've tried.
And we've tried, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sort of like not only do like because we just understand each other as people, and we're all very good friends. We all love each other very much. That's another thing that is very important in terms of having it also be an identity project. I mean, me, Mike, and John have also grown up together. We've known each other since high school. We're in our early mid-20s now. So yeah, like that definitely contributes to it. Yeah. Is there anything you'd add?
Well, I could sit here and say like our music, because we are all autistic. All four of us are autistic. I could say like that is like obvious. And I could also be like, we are all queer, because we are all queer, and traumatized, like we are all these things. But it's like that is limiting, like that's like reduction. Like, it's a reduction.
Right.
It's like we like use the for lack of a better term afflictions, but like to peacefully like process it through the music we make. So we are in the process, all of us are in the process of really like making the absolute best of these afflictions, which I don't even think that. I think autism is like not in any way an affliction, but it's perceived that.
Yeah.
So we would, again, like if we weren't autistic, we wouldn't sound like we do, because like it's very much a part of our identity.
Yeah.
And it's also just crazy that all four of us like are like that. But
yeah, all four of us share a lot of crazy similarities. And it's very odd, but yeah, like just like to drive the point home, I would probably say that like in terms of it being like diaristic for me and having it be a bit of a confessional project lyrically, I would also say that all of us sort of take it as a form of therapy. And for me personally, I've been able to process a lot through lyric writing and through making music with Foxtails, and I think that goes the same with everyone else.
Yeah, like I feel that like because of what y'all do over the riffs that I make, it's like, oh, I'm understood now.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel nice.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and about, autism and just like any type of neurodivergency in general, I feel like in a way, you sort of think outside the box. If
That
is
is
that
true.
yeah, is that correct?
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
that definitely comes through in the music, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is kind of more of like a fun question, but in your experience, like touring, you mentioned Jerome's Dream, but like, who would you say is your favorite band that you've played with so far?
Mhm. We played with so many good bands. We played with so many good ones. Damn, it's got to be. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking New Friends Fest.
Yeah, that was certainly a fest for the screamo kids.
We played this fest in Canada called New Friends Fest. So many legendary OG screamo people. So like
Yeah, like old and new. Like
Yeah.
Canada played. Also Montenegro played, and they're homies. They're amazing.
Lord Snow
Lord
played
Snow.
with huge influence. Huge influence. I love Lord Snow.
Fucking love
They
Lord Snow,
mean
bro. Yeah.
so much to me. That fest was crazy stacked. It was like literally there was no bad band on. There was like Diana Kralls is also another really awesome, underrated, artsy screamo band.
Yeah.
I'll check them out for sure.
Damn, I can't.
It's like I can't like point to any of these bands individually. It's just the entire fest.
Yeah,
Like it was stacked. There's not a single band that I don't listen to.
for
There's
sure.
like 25.
That's
That
incredible.
was definitely my favorite show experience ever, I think.
Also, we toured with Let's Get Invisible.
Yes.
And, like they're a local band. They're fan-fucking-tastic.
Oh, yeah.
And I one of my main wishes in life is to help Let's Get Invisible get more attention because they deserve
Yeah.
it.
I shout them out whenever possible. We did like a little tour run with them on the East Coast, and they're like so very like Fall of Troy vein, but not.
But they've done their complete own thing.
Yeah, but like they're
yeah.
very unique with it. So that's like the really really cool thing about them is they totally
Very
do
cinematic now too.
Very cinematic.
Yeah, once Brian started playing keys,
Yeah.
very cinematic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah,
really,
but
really interesting band that deserves more than what they have.
definitely deserves a lot of attention.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I've never heard of them, but I'll check them out for sure. Where are they called?
Let's Get Invisible.
Let's Get Invisible. Okay, I mean, I have this recorded, so I'll never forget that. And yeah, just Lord Snow, so good. And I definitely hear what you mean, especially in the experimentation. They're another band that I think will live on in screamo history. Just because of how weird they were, with like the noise stuff going on, and like they had the atmosphere. They're crazy. They're awesome. Love Lord Snow.
An absolute genius.
Yeah, the guitar. John loves the guitarist of Lord
Nico
Snow.
is a fucking genius. No question that.
Have you gotten the chance to meet each other?
Yeah, we when we played in Canada, we actually stayed at the same house,
Cool.
for a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like we were just talking about like guitarists that were influenced by. He was talking a lot about Kaki King, who I didn't hear of previously, but Kaki King is also a genius. And yeah, we had a lot of like chemistry just as, and it was really nice to be able to talk to another guitar. A screamo guitar nerd like that.
Yeah. Hopefully you can see me a little better.
Yes.
So, who do you hope to someday tour with? Like, who's on your list of bands you'd really like to be able to play with?
Soul Glow.
Soul Glow.
Masanera.
Masanera.
Yeah.
And there's so many good bands out there.
Pog.
Portrayal of Guilt.
Oh yeah.
I would really love that.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
You said Pog, and I was like, "What poggers? Like, what are you talking about?" I didn't know.
They are poggers.
I know Portrayal of Guilt. I didn't make that connection. No, they're awesome. Aren't they touring with that black metal band Wide Shade right now?
Is that
I don't know. I mean, like they're touring like 6 months out of the year because that's the place they're in.
Yeah,
they're on the grind.
Keep up with that. Yeah, keep up with the music.
Yeah.
Nice. So I got just a couple more questions, and we're gonna wrap up here. But so what is, and you've already talked a lot about this, but if you could kind of summarize it, what is the message that you hope listeners will get out of Foxtails?
Understanding. Like we want people to hear it and be like, our pain is understood the same way that we feel each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that, and also I feel like one thing that was very important to me growing up was to be able to see people that looked like me doing this type of music, because it's fairly rare. I also am very happy to know that my lyrics resonate with so many people. So yeah, definitely just I want people to sort of be able to take away that they're not alone, that their pain is understood, and also felt, and experienced by a lot of people, and that they can also take power from their situations in any way that they can. Because I think that something that I also try to do with Foxtails and putting my energy into the craft is to sort of take power back from situations where I've historically felt helpless, or just like general state of the world shit. I just want people to be able to find that power for themselves too in their everyday lives, whether that's listening to music, making music, feeling like they can talk about things, having words to describe things that they might go through. That is extremely important to me, and to know that that is already something that's happened like I can die happy at this point.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. That's like exactly what I was hoping you'd say. I definitely, when I hear your music, like I definitely feel like a sense of unity a little bit. Like kind of like, we're messed up. We're getting through this together, right? Yeah, I definitely got that.
So glad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to ask about, you mentioned like it's nice to see people who look like you doing punk and hardcore. I was going to ask about that. I didn't know if it was like kind of like a sensitive topic, but as a person of color in a scene that's like typically dominated by like white dudes, and John, you were raised in a Jewish household, right?
Yes,
so like
and
that.
Also I'm trans.
Trans as well. So like that too.
Yeah.
Like, how has that gone into what you do and influence what you do? Just like your identities as like, I guess even within punk and hardcore, kind of being outsiders.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think that if anything, it's always been extremely difficult. I would say that it's less so when we're out of Connecticut. Like if we're in New York or in like New Jersey, I don't feel as out of place until we start playing, and then people are like, "This is not what I thought this would sound like."
Yeah.
So there's always like sort of like this notion, I don't know, it's sort of like a preconceived idea of what we're supposed to sound like just because of what I look like.
And also because I put capos on guitars.
And also because you put capos on guitars, yes. But yeah, being a person of color in this scene has been historically difficult, especially in Connecticut. I think that there is a lot, it's very dominated by like white people, and so having to stand out in front of all that is, I mean, I also grew up in DIY. I mean, I've been in DIY since I was like 15 or so, so I kind of just like got desensitized, I guess. When I was really young, I used to get harassed at shows. I used to get nasty people too. And as like the years went by, I kind of just if anything, I'd say it gave me a much tougher skin. And so now I can sort of like see through bullshit much more easily than I used to be able to. And also, I don't let things affect me as much. Obviously, I'm a human being, and there are things that will affect me, but like it definitely, there is a sort of strength that comes with overcoming what people think of you or what people expect you to be, and saying like fuck that and doing whatever you want anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, to, you know, being a person of color in hardcore, like it does seem to be getting better, at least when you have Soul Glow and Jesus Peace.
Oh yeah,
Oh
it's
God.
great to.
Yeah.
It's just great to see people of color like taking up space. It's awesome.
You know,
It's
Zulu as well.
Zulu, awesome fucking band. Yeah,
They're awesome.
they're awesome. Also, Masanera, there's brown people in Masanera too. There are more. There are definitely more. Amygdala is fucking sick. Yeah, it's just like being able to see that there's more and more people, and like they're popping up now. It's awesome. I'm so happy to see it because it's so important to have for people to see that. It's so important just for them to exist.
Yeah, and I mean, in general, I feel like, I mean, I'm a white person speaking on this, so maybe I don't know, but in general, it does seem like hardcore is becoming a more diverse place. I mean, you have more queer musicians as well with, like, you know, See You Space Cowboy and, God, why can't I think? There's other ones. That's the first one I can think of off the top of my head would be, like, See You Space Cowboy. And then, you know, like, I recently got into Dying Wish, who has a female front woman, and she's fucking badass. So it does seem to be getting better, and I'm glad that you guys are also continuing to push that forward. So just to kind of end things out here, I already mentioned this was my last question at the very beginning. What's next for Foxtails? What do you guys got going on? You can share as little or as much information as you'd like to, but I'm just curious.
We're writing EP.
We're writing EP.
We're writing
Okay. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Foxtails writing an EP.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, like the plan. I mean, long-term plan, like which probably will not come to fruition, is EP, short EP, like 10 minutes long before the end of this year. Then album next year that's like a little short, and then a double LP in like 2 or 3 years.
Double LP?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No promises here. No
double
promises.
LP?
That's just the plan.
No.
Yeah.
Like is it gonna be like a screamo concept record like The Wall?
Yes.
Wait, actually?
When did you?
What?
When did you come up with this?
Foxtails is recording a Scrams record. Have you said this anywhere else?
No, they didn't even say it to me.
This is huge. This is first time we have this information. Oh my god. Go in, update, rate your music. Add in like the unreleased albums. 2023 untitled concept double album from Foxtails. Or 2024. I don't know when you mentioned, but that is epic. I am curious though why like what the decision to record an EP is though. Like, is there any particular?
Yes, can I say it? Yes. So the EP is basically gonna be like 3 or 4.
3 tracks.
It's gonna be 3 bangers. That's the goal. We're basically like paying homage to like our OG screamo bands, our 90s screamo bands.
Oh,
emo violence.
So we're getting some real heavy shit. So like Orchid, Page 99.
There's no distortion on Fawn, but there's gonna be distortion on the CD.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I cannot wait to hear that because like the more intense moments of your music, like I love the weaving between the softer and the louder, but like I always wanted to just know what it would sound like if you just went full on like like emo violence. That's gonna
exactly
be sick.
What we want to do.
That's gonna be fucking sick. I'm so excited to hear that. Oh my god. This is awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. This is like a dream come true for me to be able to interview like musicians in a genre that I really love, a band that I really love, you know. So really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for your time, and we'll keep in touch.
Sounds good. Thanks for having us.
Cool. Of course. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good rest of your day, evening at this point.
Thank you.
You
too,
too.
love.
Bye.
Bye.